Today's HutVent is about a soldier who died in 1914. But unlike many other soldiers that we've researched over the years, this one died of old age and in his own bed. His name was Major General Robert Children Whitehead. Now, it's often said that generals all die in their own beds and comfortably in their old age, but of course that's not true at all. During the First World War there was pretty much one general killed for every week of the war, and that was an enormous amount of experience that the British Army could ill afford to lose. And it's also often assumed that they don't get involved in fighting much, and of course in their later careers that's true. Their job is to run the armies and run the brigades and divisions and army corps underneath their command. But earlier on, most of them, not all, I'm looking at you, Frederick Stopford, but most of them had had field commands and actually been involved in some pretty fierce scrapping. And Robert Whitehead was no exception. He was commissioned as an ensign in 1851 and saw service during the Crimean War with the 97th Regiment. Now, the 97th Regiment of Foot later amalgamated with the 50th Foot to become the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment. But during the Crimean War, Whitehead served with the 97th, and he fought during the battle and the fall of Sevastopol and was involved in the storming party in the attack on the Redan, for which he was awarded a mention in dispatches for distinguished conduct. And not only did he get the British and Turkish Crimean War medals, he was also given the Order of the Majidi, 5th class by the Turks, which was quite an honour for a young ensign. As his career progressed, he was later given command of the 58th Regiment, who would later become the Northamptonshire Regiment. And by 1879, he was in command of the battalion in South Africa during the Zulu War. And he commanded the 58th at the Battle of Ulundi, when King Cetshwayo's Zulu army were finally defeated. And at the end of the Zulu War, he was awarded another mention in dispatches, along with the South Africa Medal, and at that time he was also appointed a Companion of the Order of the Bath. By 1897 he was retired from the active list and he was appointed the Honorary Colonel of the Northamptonshire Regiment, a post that he held until 1910. And, as I said at the start, he died in 1914. Now, just like yesterday's HutVent, this story really all starts with a box, but this time instead of a cardboard box, it started with a tin trunk. A tin trunk that I spotted at a military affair and saw the brass inscription on the box that it was to a Major General and thought, oh, that's an interesting empty box. And it was only then when I opened it up I realised just what was inside it and thought, actually this is quite an extraordinary collection, because all of Whitehead's uniform was in it. Not only was there his greatcoat and his cape, all in perfect condition with his Major General's rank still on it. There was his trousers, his sashes, the sword belt with the sword slings, and his scarlet jacket with the Major General's rank still on these wonderfully embroidered bullion epaulets, and all of the gilt on the buttons are all in perfect condition, and very, very unusually, the gilt work on all the bullion is still bright and shiny. Normally it goes very, very dull, but it is actually in remarkable condition. Even his cocked hat was still there and still in the tin along with everything else, and the plume, the feather plume, the red and white feathers, all still there and all still in perfect condition, with the tin that the plume lives in. It literally just screws into the top of the cocked hat, and you can see there all of the bullion still on the hat itself, and all in perfect condition. There's a little hook on the top so that when you've unscrewed it, the tin opens at both ends, so you can literally pull the feathers through so they don't get twisted or damaged. So you put it in one way and then pull it out the other, and it is in remarkable condition. And I think there are very few photographs that we've managed to find of him, but he does crop up. Here is a photograph of him with his officers of the 58th Regiment. And here's a photograph of him taken much later as a Major General, sporting a rather splendid beard and obviously wearing this uniform. We also have a photograph of his medals, which were taken in a museum many years ago. We don't know which museum it's in. We've not managed to track those down, so we don't know where they are now. But as a whole, as a collection, it's a wonderful example of a proper general's dress uniform. And generals get a pretty rough deal, to be honest. They get an awful lot of criticism and very rarely get the praise for all of those things that go right. So we're very pleased that we will be able to tell the story of some of those generals here, and many of those generals who found themselves killed in action during the First World War, as well as old warriors like Robert Children Whitehead.